I'm John Dutton, and we are Spilled Ink. It is a Friday night. We have already been talking about a wonderful road trip later on. Hopefully that comes to fruition. That would be awesome if it could happen. I thank you for joining me on this Friday night, the last Friday of February. We were doing some poetry this week, and we were doing wordplay, and we were doing personification and using metaphor and a metaphor as well. So is this Mr. Burson? Yes. Here he comes. All right. I wrote one called Depression. All right, here it is. Depression is a sad pig wallowing all alone in his muddy pen, watching the horses running wild and free in the field. Depression. And then I had another one for wordplay. And this one is, I call it Face Off. All right. And I'm trying to use a lot of homonyms and homophones. I nosing into our business. So now no knows that the ear heard the news that toe was toed when mouth mouthed the news to me. So that is Face Off. And so just some wordplay, which I had some fun doing. So that is mine for this week. Let's go. I'm going to go with, we're going to go Andrew, Ruth, and John Cowgill. So we'll start with Andrew Smiley, Ruth Mateus, and John Cowgill. So Andrew, unmute yourself and take it away.
Okay, great. So a little background about this poem. I live in Coral Springs, Florida currently, and a few years ago, a few miles away in Parkland, most people know what happened there. And a week or so ago, there was a certain day that happened. And on that day, I had some mixed emotions. And so that is where this poem comes from. It's called Not Enough. On this fine Valentine's Day, 2021, I help her fasten Velcro straps on pairs of elbow and knee pads, embossed with red plastic hearts, adjust and tighten her pink cat helmet in an effort to keep her safe before I escort my daughter, 8, going on 18, on a bike ride, one of way too few and not enough. Like this past year in lockdown has been a long list of not enough, has been done for so long in so many ways in this messed up world. But on this day, I am blessed to be able to spend quality time with my little girl here in Coral Springs, Florida. Hear her voice and laughter, share jokes and hugs, watch her growing up before my eyes and looking back into mine. At about this same time in the afternoon, exactly 1,095 days ago, I received a text about a code red at her elementary school because of an active shooter at nearby MSD. On this anniversary of anguish and grief, which otherwise would be a happy holiday, I am reminded of chaos and its consequences, terrified teens who huddled and hid, and those pairs of heartbroken parents, a few miles and 17 lifetimes away, who were robbed of the chance to see or experience something like I am today, who can't form any more memories with their children, whose futures were stolen, who aren't able to hold or talk to them, who have to live knowing they aren't, and that not enough has been done. 3 years after they lost their babies to bullets, fired from a troubled teen with an awful agenda, an itchy trigger finger, an unconvicted, stone cold killer who, after all this time, has still not stood trial, who has the luxury of walking around above ground while theirs are under it, breathing some of the same air his dying victims exhaled. We know now how badly several systems failed. Not enough was done to protect those students from him. Not enough has been done to get justice for them. My heart goes out to their mothers and fathers as we head home. She, hot and sweaty and temporarily tired, middle-aged me, a little winded from our exertions. I worry that no matter what I do, it will be not enough to keep my daughter secure from all the dangers of this stressed out world. I wonder if I should feel this guilty for simply being able to enjoy who and what those Parkland parents no longer can, what they wouldn't give to have their sons and daughters back, to have been quarantined with their kids for over a year, would have been a welcome burden they would have so gladly borne as I have. I know life's not fair and bad stuff happens to us all, but the mind's knowledge doesn't beat a heart's hurt or make loss any easier to live with who or what we have or don't. Although time's not enough to heal, at some point we have to heed warning bells we can unring, take off training wheels, try to find another way to push on, pedal like crazy, and move forward into the unknown on our own.
These are just random poems I've written. This is one, we survivors. For the we whose stories are only truth in others' mouths. We believe each other's stories. We need no authority, no verifier. No one need collaborate. We believe each other's stories. We honor the telling and give credence to the griot and listen. This may be the marker that defines us as us. One of the keys that opened the door marked you belong. We need not see the strips of flesh, nor the open wound to declare it agony. We know of the darkness hidden in the bright white light, the perversity of death and destruction, clothed in beauty, the power of the lie become truth. We know that permissible sight is often tableau. We know that an intruder is not harmless, nor a messenger of the fire next time. We see the invisible and hear the muted, and regardless of the evidence, we believe each other's stories, climb upon the words, and take flight. So that was one. And then this one right here, step forward. I vacillate endlessly, trying desperately to choose a stride. All the while it beats at me, the time is slipping by. I grasp frantically at what cadence that seems best, and as I flounder gracelessly, gliding by all the dreams I dreamt. That's me.
And the interesting thing about this upcoming weekend, particularly tomorrow, is it's a very special day for American history. And matter of fact, 6 years from tomorrow is going to be very special. Why? It'll be the 200th anniversary of the Baltimore and Ohio's charter in the United States of America. And so, for this reason, I have made a decision to do a short story and 2 poems. I'm going to start with the short story. It's called A Ride in Her Caboose. It was a day. There was nothing particular about the day, It had 24 hours that began and ended at midnight. Each hour had 60 minutes in it, and each minute had 60 seconds. There was a day and night with morning, afternoon, and evening. It was within a week, a month, and a year. It was just a day. I was in the park. It was a park just like any other park. It had trees, it had walking paths, it had benches, and a fountain. I was sitting on a bench reading a book. It was peaceful and quiet. Then there was a toot. I thought I was hearing things as there was no train tracks anywhere near the park, but I looked in front of me and saw tracks rising out of the grass. I glanced and see a steam locomotive made of shiny gold approaching. It began to slow down as it came closer until it arrived. I watched the locomotive pass by, and it was pulling a solid gold caboose with a very lovely lady wearing a white shirt, black jeans, sitting on the back steps. All aboard, she winked. Mesmerized by her beauty, I went aboard. I went inside, and I was amazed. She rubbed her bare feet on the plush carpet. The seats were covered in red velvet. The bed had shiny blue sheets. The table was set as if it was the inside of a parlor car. The walls were wood panel. Come on up, she said as she was climbing up to the cupola. I climbed up and sat in a nice leather sofa chair. She was sitting across from me in her chair and began to recline. I bet you've never seen this caboose before, she said so softly as she stretched out. This is nice, I reclined myself. We rode through the countryside and we entered a tunnel. The lights went dim and a disco ball came out with spinning lights. When we exited the tunnel, the lights were bright again. I looked outside and glanced at the snow-covered forest. The trees were covered in heavy snow. The train began to slow down. We are coming to a stop, she gave me a wink. Time to get off. She climbed down from the cupola and I climbed down behind her. She opened the door. I have something to show you. Before I could say something, she stepped outside, no coat and no shoes. She obviously did not have a problem. I stepped outside, feeling the frigid air all over my skin. She was already a few steps away, walking in the deep snow. Follow me, she said. She trudged to the deep snow up to her knees. I went after her, and I caught up to her as we came upon a fountain. But it was not your ordinary, typical fountain. It was a wine fountain. Dip in, she handed me a wine glass. I took the glass and took a dip, then a sip. It was very refreshing. I'm glad you like it, she smiled as she was sipping her glass. Snow began to fall. She started to dance and kick around the snow. It was a glorious sight to see her smiling, looking up at the sky. We arrived back at the park. I stepped off the caboose onto the ground. It was fun, I told her. We can do it again, she blew me a kiss. Sure, I winked at her. She waved at me as the train started to pull away. As it was departing, the track sank into the ground. This was a very special day. And that is a ride in her caboose. The second one, let me do this one first. It's called Lovely Lady on a Train. A lovely lady on a train, riding with a pouring rain. How she looks so very neat, nestled in her comfy seat. She has sparkle in her nose, lovely face and beautiful toes. Oh, how you feel her grace, that lovely smile on her face. Oh, that very shiny hair really makes you want to stare. Oh, how you feel and think as she looks at you to wink. How can you feel so less with a lady so gorgeous. You will not mind that pouring rain, seeing a lovely lady on the train. And that is that. And this is a very special story because this just ended up on inside the National Railroad Historical Society magazine this past month. And it was also on my page, and you could also read it on Spilled Ink. And it's called Love on the 1218. A lady was sitting on her deck that was next to a railroad line. She was looking through a book of photos taken by Ogle Winston Link. She came to a page where there's a photo of the Norfolk and Western Railway number 1218. There was a toot of a whistle. She looked up and saw number 1218 on the tracks next to her deck. Hey, said the engineer, do you need a ride? She thought for a moment. Sure. She climbed the bow of the 1218. The engineer tooted the whistle, and they were off. They were rolling down a line, passing over hills, rolling over towns, passing by stations, passing through tunnels, rolling over trestles, and tooting the horn the entire way. They returned to the house. I do need to be home. The engineer tooted the horn, and they went again. They returned to the house. Can we do it again, she asked. And they did it again. And that is Love on the 1218.
Mike tells me this is my first poem. It's called Acceptance. We are all here on a temporary basis. The best we can do is to try to extend our lives. We all need to use our time here in ways that we find acceptable. I love to paint and draw, and I have a goal to finish at least one artwork a week. What are you going to spend your time doing? The end. And I also have a tiny little personal essay. This is about my past. Snow days. When I was a teacher and snow was forecast, we would all go outside for our mid-morning break and run around the playground chanting, "We are doing the snow dance." Usually the game was combined with the possibility of a day off. It seemed like lots of fun. Then during art time, we would all grab some colored paper and draw and paint with tempera our dreams of snow day. Some of the children painted snowmen. Others would draw sleds and children with hats and mittens. I guess they forgot they had legs and feet to keep warm. The legs and feet were nothing but sticks coming out of their coats. A few were so excited to have cocoa with marshmallows. They would draw the mugs with brown liquid and a blob or two of the white tempera for the beloved marshmallows. Almost the whole class would paint or color the sky. The skies almost all consisted of an inch or so at the top of the page. Some of the enterprising children would paint white dots coming out of the sky. I loved all the kids and their simple, unbridled joy. Now that I'm old and I cannot walk, I still love snow days and looking out my window just to see the kids playing snow games with happy abandon. My little house has great views of the playground and all the ruckus of snow day. I feel so much joy for snow days. Watching children is so uplifting, and it makes me happy too. The end.
What I'm doing are haiku poems about some of my favorite singers. First, I'm going to start with some singers, male singers called Pine Star. This is what it looks like. Pine Star. I hope you recognize some of these singers. Roaming. This is George Strait. Bold, artful smoothie. Strolling along Texas tales. Buddy renderings. Vince Gill. Rambling. Duos, Trey Chaman. Lone Ranger singing the blues. Facile guitar licks. Mark Chestnut. Roving. Longing along lulls. Languishing redo on lounge. Lingering flames lots. Alan Jackson. Rocking. Country durable. Unreal weaving real world threads. Tall stories abound. Ricky Skaggs. Country casual. Strutting on Broadway penchant. Captain Mandolin. Easton Corbin. Rolling. Country natural. Fishing with a moonlight hook. Spreading ease afield. And this is the general poem called Romancing. Pining with slick grace, doleful semi-sweet refrains, babbling babe baubles. The next one is called Diva Nest. Beth Nielsen Chapman, entrancing. Her heart reaches up and climbs into her song's voice, drawn out of Beth's breath. Ashley Cleveland, enchancing. Respect is her call. Trust the Lord's path to glory, men and angels say. Christine Dente, enriching. Venturing about, striving with creative ease, sensing the spirit. Susan Ashton, engaging, readily caring with a diverse repertoire, thriving firmament. Twyla Paris, enchanting, gracefully profound, stirs the faithful throngs to sing, aspires with the choirs. Larry White, enduring, reliable star as a guide along the way to fulfill wishes. And the general one is extolling, artfully vocal, depicting portraits and songs with dulcet brushes. And the third one is called Gold Nest. Mildred Bailey, jazzy, trustful comforter, rocking and squawking amen, caring for lost time. Billie Holiday, saving by the hour, always missing to the last, moonstruck just in time. Shirley Temple, sassy, off to Candyland, little lady dance follies, consuming beast feast. That goes for animal crackers in my soup. Rosemarie, lassie, gritty lilting jaunts, seeking romantic outcome, chirping out the blues. Teresa Brewer, flashy, all-time tried and true, open and closed down sing song. Nix to Rome antsy, And finally, Karen Carpenter, splashy, masking soul misfires, low about being alone, tasking soul desires. And the general is classy, timeless treasure trove, expressing dreams on platters. Remember those 78 RPMs? Expressing dreams on platters, fresh chance to relish. That's it.
Okay, I have not done a Tonka in a long time. So I'm gonna do, this is a new one, Tonka 15. Found on the internet, echoed by friends. I see blinding truth, perceived through many eyes, while facts spin around me. Excuse me. Okay, this one is called Going Up. I'm in a hurry, trying to get to my apartment in time, and everything seems to be against me. Sunday drivers work in tandem to block the roads. Every single light is synchronized so that it turns on me just far enough away that I cannot safely run it. And I swear each one is 5 minutes long. Block by block, light by light, I inch along. I reach the apartment building door and find that some idiot drunk fool has broken off the key in the lock. So I have to go around to the side door, which will not open unless it's given a significant period of foreplay in the form of jiggling my key in its lock. I pull out, I push in ever so slightly till I find the magic spot and it opens for me. I run to the elevator and push its buttons, but someone's holding the cards on the top floor. Finally, they tire of their sick little game, and the elevator comes to me. A large man, perhaps 9 feet tall, dressed in a tutu and wearing a dunce cap, is carrying a small man, not 3 feet tall, dressed in a policeman's uniform and wearing a party hat, out of the elevator. Surrealistic masquerade party, says the short man as they pass. I rush in. All the buttons for every floor are lit. I curse all giants and dwarves and fairy tales in general and leap out before the door closes. They are gone as if by magic. The door to the other elevator opens. A poodle in diaper and bonnet trots out, but it doesn't fool me. I know it must be somebody's baby. I also know dogs are not allowed, not for the last 5 years, so I call out to it, "Bad dog." It scampers down the hallway and leaps at the door latch. The weight of its little body pushes the door open as it hits the latch. Once outside, it regains its composure and, pausing only long enough to stick its tongue out at me, walks away. I jump into the car. Again, the buttons for every floor glow at me with that unconcerned air that all elevators seem to learn at birth. Its door waits a little bit longer than is necessary to close, as if daring me to try something. But miraculously, I pass its test and the door closes and we rise. Boy, I imagine I'm being beamed up to a waiting starship. I live on the 7th floor. The door opens for the first time at the 2nd floor. An Oriental woman, Korean I believe, is throwing her son high into the air. I cannot see the ceiling, but it seems to me that as high as she's throwing him, he could not be missing it. But he gives no indication. He just laughs with a joyous abandon, seem not to be aware of me, and the door closes. When it opens on the 3rd floor, a sumo wrestler and a football player are squared up to each other, sizing each other up. An unseen whistle blows and they collide. Sweat squirts out onto me. The sumo wrestler maybe pushed the football player back 3 inches. He smirks, and the football player growls in reaction, angrier. Different types of balls are scattered around them on the hallway floor. They notice me just as the doors start to close. They quickly turn towards me. The whole elevator rocks as they hit the closed door. I cannot see the fourth floor hallway at all. All I can see are stacks of books, one stack next to the other, piled to the ceiling, and behind each stack, more stacks. Novels, biographies, how-tos, and whodunits, books on hi-fi and sci-fi, and many different Bibles. I push the close button immediately, and finally the door slides shut. On number 5, the door opens on a strange scene. A man in Elizabethan costume is orating to a woman in the garb of the Southern belle. Her voice, however, is squeaky, and she talks with a thick Bronx accent. Behind them, dancers fly through the air, and along the opposite wall is a band consisting of a long-haired electric guitarist, a Caribbean conga player, a Baroque woodwind player, a naked pianist, and a flamenco dancer dancing senorita with castanets singing opera. It sounds beautiful. I almost stopped the doors from closing, but then I remember my mission. The 6th floor is gray. I could distinguish no floors or walls or ceiling, nothing, until off in the distance, growing closer, an ethereal woman floats toward me. Her beauty awes me. I want to go to her, however, I can find no purchase. Fear of the unknown gray paralyzes me. No, I whimper as the doors slide shut. And then I am home in my own hallway. I run from my doorway, and once inside my apartment, I leap the table to get to the couch, grabbing the remote in midair. The first scene of the program I have been rushing to see starts just as I get comfortable. As the opening scene finishes and the opening credits are closing, I have a desire to turn the TV off, but I know what is past is gone.
You won't be able to see a video because I write on my phone, and so I end up reading off of the notes on my phone. So I apologize for that. I wrote another poem about COVID. I'm sure that everyone is pretty sick of them at this point, but since it is my daily existence, I do find myself writing on it yet again. And this one is called Dear COVID. Ever since the pandemic proclamation, I've spent months of isolation with consternation fighting stagnation, wondering about the duration and how long I will sit in frustration. No leaders in the nation have a good plan for the situation. And now when someone dies, it's hard to separate truth from lies as conspiracies theorize. All the days blend into a haze. As I mindlessly cattle graze, it's hard to walk with head raised when people's eyes are glazed, seemingly dazed and somewhat crazed. Grocery shopping with masked face, feeling displaced, left with nothing but eyes. They tell no lies. I don't look too deep into the secrets they keep or the pain that makes one weep. So I shuffle my glance in case perchance someone's eyes pierce like a lance. To avoid the pupils of truth, they are ruthless despite toothless bites, honest in sadness and fright, the kind of insecurities that keep me up at night. To see vulnerabilities of a stranger feels like a new danger. Are we all socially regressing with all the needs that are pressing? Socializing seems like old dreams, a vague memory of faces seen, connection in between Lysol wipes and sanitizer sprays, missing the old days of hugging without eyebrows raised. I want to hold my nephew and nieces in my arms and revel in the simple charms of love without fears of harm when hugs did not raise alarm. And people didn't look and silently nudge then rush to judge your moral compass or how much compassion you have by how many feet apart you kept from those closest to your heart.
Hello. So I've been trying some ekphrastic poems, and this is based on this, if you can see it. And the painting is called the Pergola. It was painted in 1868 by Sylvester Lega. Time of transition, time of late summer. Table grapes now cut from the pergola. Terracotta-born flowers strain to go to seed. Shadows cast regret across paving stones. Blankets of moss unroll their earthy scent across the fertile female field where humidity hangs molecules of respirated oxygen gifted from the cypress trees. Cypress trees stand sentry at the periphery, protecting the field's bountiful DNA for the next growing season, bracing for when winter winds come. Time stops in 1868, capturing in oil on canvas the Ottoman elixir, the brew of ground beans, and the pewter coffee pot served to the lady of the house. The elixir, a new life force in the veins of daily life, tea exchanged for coffee. And time frolics forward through the molecules of gifted air. The energy of human progress leaps across the fecund field, resists the humid embrace, forgets insect chatter and bird banter as the din of progress gears up to steam, to press, to filter the life of less. Fini.
I tried my hand at haikus. Beautiful sunsets remind us repeatedly God created beauty. My second one is clutching my walker. I can see ice everywhere. Spine, be quiet. I am scared. And my third one, people look at me. What an awful sight they see. Soon I need to flee. That's it.
First poem is called Reflection. I sometimes forget to notice as a windblown tree twisted, torn to the shape of its landscape becomes synonymous with the view that shaped it. Difficult to remember naming each catastrophe as damage registered in some deep core to be ringed for some future analysis, pain hardening into silent memory. My reflection nearly the shape of what must be done today, tomorrow, some unforeseeable future, another structure to label with the sky's signpost. Now I am my own landscape, familiar enough to walk in my sleep, keeping the wind at my back, bathing in the light as it changes, but out of the corner of my eyes, watching the horizon for another incoming storm. And this next poem, I picked this anyway, even before we talked about road trip, but this is a true story. It's called Rush. My breathing is almost back to normal, though my pulse still pounds in my ears as the sun fades. I sit, not moving, eyes closed, inhaling the smell of new leather, and savor the rush of blurred landscape, black ribbons stretching out and broken lines merging to a single neon strip of light. I open my eyes to the strobe of blue lights and watch in my rear view mirror as the poster perfect trooper walks, clipboard in hand, walks toward my car. With a sigh, I turn to the window, the sensation of excessive speed evaporating. I only hope that my all too brief ticketed joy will be worth the price I will be paying.
I'm going to break the trend here and read narrative. I'm going to read the first chapter. I just published a detective police procedure novel the end of January. So I'm going to read the first chapter, which is only a page and a half. So it shouldn't be too long. It was a picture perfect day with the sun shining brightly and not a cloud in the sky. Come on, Jimmy, hit that sucker. The young boy heard someone yell from the bleachers as he approached home plate, swinging his bat lightly as he walked. He knew the pressure was on, but he could only do his best, which was pretty good on some days. But this wasn't going to be one of them. He cringed as he heard the umpire finally call, "Strike three, you're out." Jimmy headed to the dugout with his head drooping, dragging his bat beside him along the dusty ground, trampled flat and dry by thousands of similarly disappointed steps. As he passed close to some of the onlookers, he couldn't help hearing their cynical remarks. "He can't hit for nothing," complained one. "He's got a lousy coach," a more sympathetic voice offered. The last thing he heard before entering the dugout was his team coach call, "Okay, Josh, you're up. Just do the best you can and don't worry about it." It should have made him feel better, but somehow he felt even more deflated, like he had let the team down. There was no way to rescue it. Straddling beside home plate, Josh watched as the ball came toward him. He closed his eyes for a split second, caught his breath, and then swung. Hard, harder than he had ever swung before. He opened his eyes to wild shouts of "Run, run!" from onlookers, jumping up and down and swinging their arms to direct him to get going. To his own amazement, he quickly realized he had slammed the ball to the outfield between first and second base, and the outfielder was chasing after it. He ran toward first base with a swift glance up. With a swift glance up, he saw the ball bounce in the street outside the edge of the park and fly through an open car window, apparently right into the driver's lap. The outfielder, who had been chasing after the runaway ball, slowed down as he approached the car. Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry about the..." And then his voice trailed off. Something wasn't right. He approached more slowly until he was looking through the open window into the vehicle. The woman in the driver's seat had not moved one iota, even though the ball had dropped right into her lap. He knew that because there it was, sitting on her lap, but she wasn't moving. He suddenly started feeling a little sick. Deep down in his stomach, he felt the nausea roiling upward. And then the realization suddenly reached his brain as he saw what had to be blood splattered around the inside of the car. And that's when he started slowly walking backwards, mumbling to himself as the shouts of "Hurry up, Harry," and "Come on, Harry," became a dull din behind him. And then he turned and ran, screaming, toward the shouting crowd. End of chapter 1.
And Sandy, here's another COVID poem. I promise it's my last one. It's COVID poem 6. Most of the frigid day phone calls lately from nice old ladies about my same age have consisted of pretty much the same words, whether at the beginning of the conversation or creeping in after some stumbling COVID chatter. These words are, "What are you doing to cope? Have you had your shot? When do you think this'll be over?" My common answers are these: Kitty, Connie, Marcia, Joanne. Ever since this dreadful COVID began, my daily life is much the same. Promise, I'm not the one who's known to complain. I start off with reminding these ancient girlfriends of mine that I read and keep reading to pass the time. They know my choice of books, don't even have to ask. but I give some titles anyway, trying to go fast because I know their attention span does not long last. However, this morning when Cynthia called, I changed my tactics. I told her instead of a war book, I had some memory flashes. So then she had to hear of my childhood events, and the next many minutes our phone time was spent while I rambled through my mom's war diary. Here goes. Arlington, Virginia, fall 1940. Alice Amelia was early, October 2nd to be exact. The war in Europe was blazing. We got the facts by radio, sometimes in Roosevelt's fireside chats. Somehow, I always knew that we would end up in the war, and then came the ration books. We needed them for butter, sugar, red stamps for tires. We got extra for gas if we donated blood. The news became worse, bombs raining on London, people trudging through a tunnel of embers and sludge. Alice was an easy, happy child, and that was great because many of my other parts of my life were simply wild. We were building a house in Bellevue Woods. I did everything I possibly could to help, with Alice in her playpen giggling along, sometimes trying to join in my favorite songs. December 7, 1941. A lovely warm day, at least that's how it had begun. We got in the car to go back to church, turned on the car radio, and then a sudden lurch as the voices came on with the shocking words, Pearl Harbor has been bombed at a terrible loss. Most of the ships have been sunk and are lost. War was declared with Germany and Japan, and all across our American land, everything changed overnight. Many of our friends were called to fight. Blackout curtains were added, and the air warden came to make sure that every window was covered so that we would not be blamed. These 5 years, our elders had to change their whole lives, yet they managed to help each other, and that way they thrived. So, not finished, but suddenly to my friends I exclaimed, and while feeling more than a little ashamed, I said, let's agree from now on not to complain. After all, COVID has only been here a year. Let's let our optimism drown out our fears. Soon we will be able to party once more. In the meantime, I'm calling Barnes & Noble, my favorite bookstore.
This first poem is titled Bug on the Window of My Car. The bug on the window of my car rides along under the cutting air. Its legs outline the ribs of a skeleton, human. Its wings are an angel's. What is it detecting with its antenna? I wonder if it sees more of itself in me than I see myself in it. It sees less, the experts say. I wonder if it sees below its body, my being in essence below its body. It sees in every direction. And why should I assume it spends its time looking below it? It sees itself in the great sky in front as it faces up and above it. I see below, and in as many ways as there are eyes. Though for now, I have a distance I am traveling, the bug riding with me in the sky. Thank you. Second poem here, titled Ahead of Schedule. The song played in my head and on the radio soon after. Did the needles keep the track? Did the alignment between where I was to be and where the song was to play misalign? I'm onto it. It happens often. And if it is a revelation, I'd rather be dipping in oneness with the song coming on the air, random-like, than be lost in inquiry about life's order. But enough about message. I can use the skipping, the song playing in my head before I hear it through speakers. I like the double enjoyment.
I've got three, and the first one's called Warrior Chiefs. We, children of rain, we, children of wind and rain, left the sidewalks, the hard pavements of decision, avoided front lawns and all the proper garden plots. Lifting dew-drenched leaves to our lips, we let the silver moonlight captured in these whispers of water make our inner journeys rich beyond anyone's dreams. Enjoying the elasticity of clay slip between our toes and blossom in buttery red colors, we let the banks of rapid running river become our playground as we molded the clay into monoliths, basilisks, turmoil and trouble to be flattened by heroic armies we led across the land. Boys caught, brinksmen of pretense, we turned the river into an ocean, filled the air with the magnificence of dragons. We were no longer arrows of might, but metamorphed into wizards whose magic made the earth tremble and the air shimmer with doorways we could use to transport us into the dens of thieves where riches lay waiting for the plucking. In the distance, like the drone of warplanes, we heard the beginning of the highway's nightmare, nodding sagely, laughing occasionally, simply to expose our bravery. Blood brothers, tribal warriors, we allowed the night to be pulled back from the crying sun. We heard our mothers' calls shimmer through the fierce climate of our desires. The echoes shattered. We shrunk. Watched blood heroically earned become caked, streaked slashes of mud. Dinner called. All we held to be true crumbled back behind our tired eyes. A breeze lifted and raced along the path we watched, cut through the trees, back to the sky. We returned down sidewalks, through doorways, washed in tubs and sinks. The last stink of drowns down drains and into the quiet caves we would awaken in the glory of our dreams. End poem. The next one, Neighborwood. The slow spiral about a thermal, wings spread unmoving except when tips curl. Flex, caress, a shift in the flow. A feather falls, a dream set free, shiftless upon the rivered winds. Its gyrations, a graceless counterpoint to the beauty of flight. Still, my child races through the grasses, disturbs crickets, dragonflies, and frogs to capture what has fallen. Summer hums with insects, reptiles, animals that seek to adapt to suburbia, the clatter of trash cans, sudden acts of wildness along creeks, hiding out at the back end of the yard, running water as a siren. Wet rocks and mud, enticing play sets, all too formal. The wild, a comma in the sentence of ramblers, a better home for dreams, growing children. My son stops atop the rise, feather clutched high above his head. Breeze reaches out, tousles his hair. I can hear his laughter. The color seems to shimmer. He runs towards me, my private wild man, glorying in his success. I lift him up in my arms. He tickles my face with the feather. It is time to go. Dinner is waiting. He looks at me, waves his plume. Sure, he can do anything when the next adventure calls. End of this poem. And the last one is Sandbox pirates. Memories tie themselves round tree trunks, doorknobs, weave particulars into a song, catch your heart with the right twist of shadow. We never forget when we have been touched. I live with ghosts, tales children create, memories, kite tails in blue skies when friends and I were wild-eyed, pledged to a brotherhood full of unconquerable dreams. Families move, dreams lost in packing crates, promises forged on playgrounds, forgotten like stone markers for hopscotch. Except when I creep through the rock, deep in my foundation, find relics holding hot afternoon catch, tackle football on front yard grass, all my futures buried in the past, friends lost to the twist of time, and parents' course and jobs demands. But I understand. We made ourselves believe we could be anything our imagination perceived. Now, I am nothing like I could foresee, but so much more for the practice I got with my friends riding waves in a sandbox sea.
Hello, guys. It's been a great night. Thank you for a lovely Friday night. I really enjoyed myself. I've been working on my novels lately, so I haven't had any new poetry, but I did find my old book based off poems from age 12 to 18, I guess. So I'll read from those every now and then. I like to bring those out. So the first poem is called Voids. Voids. Emptiness perhaps controls my love. I do not know why she tortures me. So she is my enemy because she gives me no answers. Her many lovers fulfill voids within herself, or so she tells me. And she doesn't seem to see that by doing this, she creates voids within me. I must liberate myself from this oppression. I wish I had never spoken her name because her emptiness controls me. Thank you. That's the first piece. That one was actually written at 12, so I don't know what the heck I was writing that for at that age. Little sister. Little sister. I make fun of you in your face and behind your back. I watched you as you go through flimsy romances and raid my refrigerator, yet I'll say nothing. Run up my phone bill along with my temper, and all you receive is silence. See, I can't tell you what to do because you're too proud and stubborn to listen. So as you read this poem, it might be the only time you'll ever know that I love you. In peace. And then the last one is The Tin Windmill, which was based off a gift my grandmother gave my mother. It's a little tin windmill. It's like a music box. So I'll read that one. The Tin Windmill. The tin windmill that my grandma gave me occasionally plays without being touched. And one time, around midnight, when the windmill played its tune, I walked into the mass of blackness of the living room, unafraid, watched the windmill come alive once more with song unprovoked. Then I danced with Grandma's spirit. Together once more we walked slowly, her in a white gown, I in pajamas and slippers, around the furniture, around the house, forever. And then the windmill stopped. Thank you.
So the first one I've decided, instead of calling it Untitled, it'll probably, John Dutton will come up with one. On the back road, a long curve of road comes from the past and leads away towards stars and hope. The green of loam and earth roots with smells of past visits with family, not the grind of coming, and never going. I am stuck in a starless void where each day you rise to halogen sunrise and come home to fluorescent sunsets. And in between, man light sees all deep inside you. There's never a moment of dark stillness, a time to dance with the shadow of the moon. It'll just take me a minute to come up with the second one. So the second one is, of course, for the cat. Oops, it just disappeared. What nobody knows. What is known about your cat hardly fits a teacup with drink for two, and then we still know nothing about their little evil minds. Only we still love them when their bodies move to warm ours in deep cold sleep. They claim dream time is theirs. Yes, even in our sleep, they own us. Knowing this, we still watch and learn nothing about their little evil minds. Only we still love them, watching for each twitch, swish tail, saying something we don't know. And it'll take me just a minute to find the. And so this one is one of my earlier ones about, I have a series about Snow White. So this one's called Apples and Barrels. Left over in deep, cold storage, with the success of a previous harvest, we cannot assume to have awards for the current. Look only, each apple in the remaining barrel is pure magic, pure poison in the wrong or right fingers. Their beauties will entice the dumbest beauties to ignore warnings and eat. And I assume you want no repeat of sleep. Our apples are perfections, linger in calmness and bring no deep slumber, but the inflexibility of death. So be careful. If you want happy ever after, go elsewhere. Our wares bring success and pride, and fairest will fade away. Here is the bill.
Well, I'm John Dutton, and this was a fantastic night of Spilled Ink. I will always appreciate it because we can't do it without you, and it was absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much. I love you all, and I can't wait to do it again next month. And next month, once again, is Happy Women's Month. So every day, think of someone special who is a woman in your life, okay? So thank you all, and we will see you next month. Keep writing and happy scribbling. Take care, all.